Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brandon Tackett, otherwise known as the Southern Fried Film Nerd, and today we're going to be doing a little tier ranking of the Ghostface killers from the Scream franchise. Alright, so you will see that I have the tiers named here. The topmost tier is The Hero Got Lucky. That basically very self-explanatory. If someone ends up in this ranking, that means that Sydney probably shouldn't have survived her encounter with them. Then we have the so close category. This is reserved for the killers who made just that one or two small mistakes that kept them from being up here where they lost solely because Sydney got lucky. Down here we have Talented Wannabe. This is a category for the Ghostface killers who have a lot of talent in one way or another, right? They're either smart or they're creative or, they're particularly good at the thing that they do, but they're just not the top tier, right? They needed something to get them there. They couldn't have done it by themselves. Down here we have the how they got this far, I'll never know. And this tier is created specifically for one reason, and you will know immediately what it is when I put someone in here. And then we have the no, just no category. And this one is reserved for any Ghostface killer that I feel like probably shouldn't have even been there in the first place. Alright, so let's get started. The very first one that I have down here, oh, by the way, just so you know, I have arranged these in a specific order. It goes from Scream 1 through Scream 6, the second killer revealed in those movies. And then we have Quinn, who was a special case because she was revealed last out of 3 killers. And then we have the killers from Scream 6 all the way to Scream 1 who were revealed second in the film. Alright, so, first of all, my man, Stu Macher, Matthew Lillard, one of my absolute favorite actors. He's been entertaining me for the better part, if not all of my life, going all the way back to the movie Hackers back in the day. If anybody has seen Hackers, that's a thing. It's a thing that happened. And recently, just last night, I watched him in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. But I am not going to let that cloud my judgment here. I'm here to talk about the character of Stu Macher as they were written. And of course, these are all my opinions. And as much as it pains me to do this, I'm going to put Stu Macher in Talented Wannabe. I can hear the people getting the noose ready to walk me down to the gallows on this one. Look, I love Stu. Stu's an amazing character. I am a Stu believer. I want Stu to come back. I'm firmly in the Stu could have survived Scream 1 camp, and I'm anxiously awaiting his return to the franchise, which may never happen, but I can hope, and if not, it's in my headcanon that he's still alive somewhere. Okay, so now I feel like I have to defend my actions. Stu is a talented wannabe because while he is very creative and very dedicated to what they are doing, he's a follower, alright? It was very easy for Billy to manipulate him into going into a killing spree, and it was clear that Billy could care less about him, yet Stu had no clue about that. He was just along for the ride, thrill-seeking the whole way, and I really do believe that of the two of them, of the duo, Stu was the one going, hey, what if we did this? And Billy was just like, yeah, whatever, as long as they die, it's fine, I don't care. But that doesn't change the fact that he was a follower. And left to his own devices, I don't think he would have gotten very far without Billy guiding the massacre. Stu, I think, would have been completely ineffective there. But yeah, Love the character. Stu's great, but talented wannabe. Very creative, very smart. Just, in the end, gullible, impulsive. I mean, the way he goes after Sydney in the final act, no plan, no nothing, just going to brute force his way through it and ends up with a TV dropped on his head. So, yeah, talented wannabe. All right. Next up on the old chopping block here, we have Mrs. Loomis herself, Nancy Loomis. After what I just said about Stu, a lot of people are probably also going to disagree with me on this one. But I am going to put Nancy in... Okay. We're going to pretend like that didn't happen. Get this lined back up here. Boo, boo, boo. Okay. Now, we're going to put Nancy in the so close category. Now, Nancy is terrifying. And she, for me at least, coming from the South, things that I have heard a lot in my life, she is the embodiment of two old sayings that I hear a lot growing up. And, one of them being that there is no fury like a woman scorned. And the other one is, don't mess with a bear cub because Mama Bear is going to be pissed. All right. And that sums up Nancy Loomis. And if you add on top of that she was smart enough to recruit a truly dangerous person to do the heavy lifting and manipulative enough to keep him under control. All right. Nancy's only fatal flaw, and the reason that she ends up being so close, is because she made one crucial mistake that she did not have to make. And she made it because she was selfish. All right. The mistake that she made is that she wanted to be the one that killed Sydney herself. So she killed Mickey. She took Mickey out of the equation when she didn't need to. He was dedicated. He was there. Like, she had him under control. He would have gladly helped her do whatever she wanted to do to Sydney and Gail at the end of Scream 2. And she just kills him. So that was her one mistake, and that's why she ends up just being so close. Yet, not quite in the hero got lucky stage of things. All right. Next up, we have Charlie Walker. All right. So Charlie wasn't a very big fan of Charlie when I saw Scream 4 originally, but in the years he's kind of grown on me. And honestly, for completely different reasons, he reminds me a lot of my boy Stu up here. So you guessed it, Charlie Walker is going into talented wannabe. All right. It is largely believed by the community that Charlie did the vast majority of the killing, and he did it well, right, with creativity and intelligence, and quite possibly, even to this day, even as violent as Scream 5 and Scream 6 is, I still feel like Charlie might be one of the more brutal, if not the most brutal killers in the franchise, right? So, like, he was smart enough to set up a ghost face mask on like, I think it was the back porch. I haven't watched the movie in a while. Just so he could use that to kind of corral his victim to where he wanted them to go. And, like, that's smart. That's intelligent. And then, the problem that he has, and the reason that I said him and Stu kind of put me in mind of each other, is that just like Stu, he's a follower, right? And worse is he's a bit of a fool, right? Because he lets his own self-esteem issues that he had growing up and stuff, like being like the nerdy kid in school, getting picked on and all that, never getting the girl, right? Like very, very incel vibes here. He let those allow Jill to just manipulate the ever-living hell out of him. and not just like manipulate, but flat out control him. And Charlie was Jill's weapon, right? Like, that's so smart, intelligent, creative, brutal. That's the talented part, but I don't think without Jill's involvement or influence on his life, he ever would have, started doing it. I could be wrong. If someone's willing to kill somebody like that, they're probably going to do it regardless of not. But if we're just going by movie logic here, then that was the defining factor. Okay. All right. Next up on the chopping block, we have Richie. Okay, Richie, Scream 5. I really like Scream 5. I revisit it quite often, actually, and I think it's got some great kills in it. It's got some good acting in it. It's a pretty decent little storyline as well. But like I said at the beginning of the video, I created this tier for a very specific reason, and Scream 5 is this reason. That's right. Richie Kirsch is going into how they got this far. I will never know. Like, Richie's whole motive, like, revolves around wanting to imitate his killer heroes. And not even the real ones, but like the fictional ones in universe, like the stab versions of Billy and Stu. Like, he's trying to remake the first movie, and he casts himself in the role of Billy. And he is no Billy. He's a literal wannabe, right? So you'd say, like, well, why not just put him in talented wannabe? Because he's not talented, right? Like, Richie, he's not a talented wannabe. He and Amber are, like, constantly in a state of reaction in Scream 5, right? Like, if you rewatch the movie a couple of times, it becomes pretty clear that, like, he shows up in the movie with a plan, right? Him and Amber get together, they attack Tara so that they can bring Sam back, and they can reenact the movie, and like create their own version of it. He has a plan at the start of the movie, but immediately things start going wrong. Like, Tara doesn't die in the opening of the film. I'm pretty sure that their plan involved her actually dying, and she did not. But it still worked, right? It still got Sam into town. And then once they're in town, right, he wasn't counting on, like, Dewey and Gail and Sydney getting involved. Like, they weren't part of his script. And, like, the things that start happening there cause him and Amber to go into, like, this reactionary kind of state of things where they're like, oh, well, now we have this problem. We have to take care of this problem. Like, killing Vince, right? Killing, was he Stu's nephew, I believe, in the movie? There's no reason to kill Vince, right? Like, but they kill him and I think it's reactionary, and then taking out Judy and Wes, and like everything just kind of keeps going wrong for them, and they just kind of like bumble their way from moment to moment, and you can tell these things because, like, the desperate action of calling Sam at the hospital and like attacking Sam at the hospital and stuff, like they are constantly just on the verge of getting caught, and it's because nothing is going the way they want it to. And like, Richie has all these little moments throughout the movie where he's like, oh, I stole the inhaler, right? Like, I changed your medicine and all of this stuff. Like, he's got some smarts, he's got some brains, but still, they just bumble. They bumble their way through the movie. How he avoided getting found out until the end of the movie, I will never understand. When my best friend and I watched that movie in the theater, like, she turned to me and she was like, oh, he's one of the killers. I was like, yeah. I mean, it's pretty obvious. And I said the same thing about Amber, which, we'll talk about later when we get to her. All right. Next up on the chopping board, we have Ethan Landry. Okay. And this is pretty much the only reason that this ranking exists. Look, Ethan gets next to no screen time. And what screen time he does get doesn't do him any favors, right? Like, he is a punching bag for his friends, right? Like, Chad's making fun of him at the party. Like, he's being supportive in that, come on, let's go talk to this girl and all that. Oh, no, that's a good thing, right? But, like, it's very condescending, and, like, he's kind of like the wallflower, and he's in the back, and, Chad, Tara, Sam, none of them, was it Anya, I believe, was the Mindy's girlfriend. Nobody's really giving him any attention because he's just kind of like this putz, right? And then, like, later on in the film, you learn that his father, Detective Wayne Bailey down here, who we'll get to in a minute, loved Richie. Right? Loved Richie. Richie was his favorite son. So Ethan's even like a punching bag in his own family. So yeah, he's just a bit of a nothing character. He has no reason to be doing what he's doing, other than to try to curry favor with his father. He has like no personality, and there's really nothing that kind of sets him apart from any of the other Ghostface. Like, he doesn't have anything that makes him like special, right? Even at the end of the movie, when all of the, the whole family is revealed as the killers, and he's like, he doesn't even do a very convincing job of seeming particularly psychotic or particularly like amused with what he's doing. Like, he doesn't really seem to have any like care for it. So yeah, he's just a lame character. I don't like Ethan. All right, on the other hand, though, we have Quinn. I can't remember what her last name. It's Bailey. Yeah, oh yeah, it's because she is pretending to be her father's daughter, even though she is her father's daughter. It's, whatever. I'll say Quinn Bailey. Quinn, I like Quinn. I thought Quinn was a pretty good character, and I'm going to put her in Talented Wannabe. I feel like she was the best of the three killers in Scream 6, which is still a pretty low bar. I might do another mini ranking where I kind of put them in order of just like best to worst, which is a little different from what I'm doing right now. This is kind of like just going off of like how skilled they were as the killer, I guess you could say. All right, so let's talk about what Quinn does in Scream 6. Excuse me. So Quinn nearly kills Gale. She does kill Brooks, who is like this muscle-mound dude who Gale has like shacked up with for some reason. I mean, I've got a pretty good theory about it, and I might make a video and talk about it later. I don't know. This is my first video, so I hope everybody is entertained with my commentary on these different characters. But okay, so she nearly kills Gale, does kill Brooks. She tries to kill Mindy in a crowded subway car, right? Just surrounded by people that could catch her, and nobody catches her, right? So she's stealthy. She's clearly crazy, right? Even before any suspicion is levied at the character, just the conversations that she has with Sam and Tara in the movie, with like, the way she talks, the way she moves, the way she acts, the way she addresses people. It's very, I am who I am, and I'm happy being who I am, and like whatever kind of vibe. So, yeah, I liked her personality. I thought she had a personality unlike her brother in the movie that kind of like sets her apart from everybody else. Oh, air conditioner is on. I hope that doesn't affect the audio too much. We'll find out later. Where was I? Oh yeah. And when she is revealed as a killer, it's like this completely unhinged performance. Like she actually feels like a character who is having fun doing the thing that she's doing, right? Like she's very enthusiastic about it, and like you just get the impression that it didn't take a lot of prodding from her father to get her to go on a killing spree. So yeah, big fan of Quinn. Definitely the best Ghostface killer in Scream 6, in my opinion. All right. Detective Wayne Bailey. My God, Detective Wayne Bailey. Any guesses? Anybody have any guesses where I'm going to put Detective Bailey? Anybody? Did the hero get lucky? I don't think so. Was he so close? Not at all. Is he a talented wannabe? I mean, an argument could probably be made because he clearly has some kind of training. I'm not entirely sure that he actually is a detective or any kind of law enforcement. He might have had some kind of military background or some survival background or something. I don't know if it'll ever be covered in the other movies. But he clearly has some kind of training. If not law enforcement, it's something. So he does have talents. But just the amount of luck that this man has in that movie. Now, I know, and everybody else knows, that it's not luck, right? Like, it is plot armor, right? the whole reason these things happen. But in canon, in world, in the universe, he's just super fucking lucky. All right. Detective Bailey goes in the how they got this far, I will never know category. And so let's just look at the list of lucky things he has going on. And there's probably way more than I'm going to list, but I'm just doing this off the cuff, based off of memory and stuff. So he fools an entire police department into thinking that his name is Wayne Bailey and that he is a detective. And he does it for quite a while. I think I remember Quinn saying that he changed departments when she went to college. And they've been in college for at least several months at this point, if not, an entire semester. So he fools an entire police department for quite a while. He manages to find Jason and Greg and find out that they're planning on killing Sam and Tara. Like, I don't even know how that happens. Maybe, I guess he's on the internet in chat rooms, right? But if they're that easy to find, then they probably shouldn't have been trying to do what they were trying to do in the first place. And then he manages to stay on the case that directly involves his daughter, which is, a clear breach of, like, the words are slipping my mind right now, but you know what I'm talking about. And there is a moment where he does get taken off the case, but he's still involved. He's still out there, like, doing, this surveillance operation in the park and all this stuff, and, like, Kirby's involved and stuff. So people know that he's involved, and they just let him do it. So, like, super lucky. He manages to swap out Quinn for just some random corpse, like, to be the first person on the scene of the crime and all that stuff, and just, no forensics officers or anybody, like, looks at the corpse and goes, that looks suspicious. Not a single person. So yeah, and, like, you could take these things in a better written script, maybe. And you could call him a criminal mastermind, right? Like, he planned all of these things. He's that good. He had someone who could forge papers well enough to fool the police and all this stuff. But in this movie, like, there's no justification for it. There's never any evidence given. There's nothing to explain why he's able to do all of these things. So in universe, it's dumb luck, and in the script, it's just plot armor. And when he finally does reveal himself at the end of the movie, he becomes a cartoon villain. Like, he's like a pretty contained and reserved kind of person, even when he's, like, acting angry and stuff throughout the rest of the movie. But then, like, the when he reveals himself at the end of the movie, he might as well just grow a little mustache and start twisting it and going wah, and because he's, like, ranting and raving and unhinged, like he's been this psychopath this whole movie. But he hasn't, and he hasn't shown any indication that he is. And, like, him and his whole family are clearly messed up people and suspicious as fuck across the board. But yeah, somehow he just never gets caught. Like, he should have gotten caught, like, I don't know, before he even walked into the police department the first time, probably, if we're looking at real world situations. Alright, so That's enough about the Bailey Kirsch family. God, look at them. They are the vast majority of the Ghostface killers at this point. Anyway, moving on to Amber. All right. So Amber, no surprise, she's going right along here with her boyfriend Richie. So just everything that I said about Richie. But you can also kind of add everything that I said about Charlie as well, but minus the intelligence and creativity. Amber is just like a loose cannon. Richie just kind of aims her at people, and she just goes and stabs them 1,000 times. She doesn't know where to stab them, how to stab them to like get the kill, clean. She just goes in and goes all stabby McStabberson on people. But yeah, just like Richie, she's just right there with him, just bumbling their way through that movie, trying to, cover their tracks and still get their script going on, and just getting lucky here and there. How they got that far, like, I'll never know. But yeah, just like Charlie was Jill's weapon, the Amber is Richie's weapon, and she lacks the intelligence and creativity, and unfortunately, Richie doesn't make up for the lack of intelligence like Jill does for Charlie. All right, speaking of Jill, we're moving on to Jill. Jill may be... Oh, it's a tight race, actually, particularly with these last four. I was going to say she may be my favorite Ghostface killer, but I don't know. Let's just talk about it real quick. All right. So Jill, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the bomb. I am putting her in so close. She was almost in The Hero Got Lucky, like way closer than Nancy. You know what? I'm gonna move her to the front of the line. And the most talented wannabe here, honestly, probably Quinn. I think Quinn's the most talented wannabe. Go ahead and rearrange that. All of these are just, and then Ethan is whatever. But anyway, back to Jill. So close. All right. Listen, Jill was pure evil. And she not only had like an amazing plan, but she executed it to perfection in Scream 4, right? Sidney got lucky that it wasn't a fatal wound that she had gotten at the end of the movie. And then she also got lucky that she didn't bleed out before the police got there. And then, like, Jill, in Scream 4, Jill played everyone like a harp from hell, okay? Batman Returns line. Love that movie. And she did it without a lack of empathy. Well, with a complete and utter lack of empathy. I mean, right? Like, not an ounce of it to be found in her whole body. And, yeah, once she's in the hospital at the end of the movie, she kind of stumbles. But, like, I've never really liked the hospital segment at the end of Scream 4, because it kind of feels like a second, third act, if that makes any sense. You have your climax in the house. And I think I heard that somewhere that they decided to tack on more at the end of the movie. Like, Jill was originally supposed to survive and Sidney was supposed to have amnesia or something like that, which makes a lot of sense because the hospital section always kind of seems like it was tacked on to the rest of the movie. But, it's in the movie, it's been released, it is canon, so we have to discuss it, and the hospital section is what keeps her from being in The Hero Got Lucky. Because, she divulges information that she should not have, and that gets her caught. So, she makes that one mistake. She's so close. And some people out there, may argue that going after Sidney in the hospital should drop her score even more. But I think at that point, she had nothing to lose. I think she realized that she had made that mistake and said, fuck it. Right? And at the end of the day, if she had managed to kill Sidney in some way in the hospital that she couldn't be implicated in, It would have then just been her word against Gail and Dewey's word. There wouldn't have been any evidence. It would have all been circumstantial. So I can't fault her for wanting to go after Sydney in the hospital. Either way, at the end of the day, she was so close, and just made that one mistake. All right. Now, Mr. Roman Bridger. Look, when Scream 3 first came out, I hated that movie. I hated it. And up until, maybe right before Scream 5 came out, my best friend got me to sit down and watch Scream 3 again with her, because she said it wasn't bad and that it was good and that I should revisit it. Up until then, I had never watched Scream 3 again. I saw it in the theater when it came out, and then 20 years later or more, I don't know, I watched it again with her, and I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. I remembered the movie being a lot sillier than it is, and don't get me wrong, it is silly, and it is clearly a movie that was meddled with and fiddled with, and I think that was the biggest problem that I had with it, was that it didn't feel like a complete movie. But at this point, I've revisited it several times. I watched it again before Scream 6 came out. I watched it again recently. I've watched the assembly cut that leaked online twice now. And my opinion of Mr. Roman Bridger has changed quite a bit. Now, I will say that despite my belief that he did not work alone, I believe that Angelina was in fact another killer, and that it would be very easy for them to retcon it and say that she was, and that Roman killed her at the end of the movie before she could be revealed. But the canon says that he did it alone, so we're going to move forward with that. So if he did it alone, that is impressive. He has the highest body count. He managed the most working pieces. He executed the most flawless plan, right? And as silly as the long lost brother storyline is, it doesn't change the fact that he orchestrated everything from behind the stages, right? He talked Billy into becoming a murderer. He worked his way into a job that would allow him to draw Sid out. He tracked her down in hiding. He developed an impossible voice-changing technology. He killed his mother's abuser. He caught Dewey and Gail, right? He was just a damn good director, right? Like, he moved all of the pieces in all of the right ways to achieve his goals. His goal was to draw Sydney out. He achieved that goal, and then his goal was to make her the villain. They always want to make Sydney the killer. Like, all the killers want Sydney or Sam, because Scream 5 and 6 are a thing at this point. They want to make the heroine of the movie out to be the killer. They want to put the blame on them, and it's always, I don't understand why they always have that as a goal. But yeah, and then sadly though, all of those accomplishments, all of those accolades, all of those achievements, I still have to put Mr. Roman Bridger in the so close category. Let me tell you why. Remember, this category is for the ones who made that small one or two mistakes that just prevented them from being in a situation where Sydney just had to get lucky. And his mistake, right, is he had Sid dead to rights before Dewey knocked the power out, right? Like, the power going out caused a moment where he got distracted. It allowed Sid to slip away, right? And then it made it harder for him to find her because, he couldn't see what was going on in the room. But before that, she was right in front of him. She had nowhere to go, and right? Like, it's a case of what's it going to do? So, his one mistake is that he didn't kill Dewey and Gale. He caught him. He had him tied up. He had him tied up for a long time, right? Like, tied up in a chair. He just slit throat, done. No problem, right? And you could argue that he needed to keep them alive so he could get Sydney into the house. But, like, Sydney was going to go into that house regardless. She left the police station. She drove all the way there, right? She used the metal detector, right, like you told her to. And then, you know, she came all that way intent on having a final confrontation, on having a showdown, because she knew that it wasn't going to end until she ended it. So she was going to go in that house regardless. He did not have to keep Dewey and Gale alive. So that's why Roman Bridger is in the so close rank. Because if he had just, you know, killed off Dewey and Gale, there would have been nobody there to knock out the power. And, you know, I don't think Sydney would have made it out. All right, we are down to the final two. And earlier when I was going to say that Jill may be my favorite Ghostface killer, and I had to stop and rethink it, that's because of Mr. Mickey Altieri. And I don't know if I'm saying that last name correctly. What a weird last name to give to a character in a Scream movie. So here's the thing about Mickey. All right. Sid got lucky that Nancy killed Mickey. That's right. I am putting him in the hero got lucky category. All right, so here's the thing about Mickey. All right, and this is, I think Mickey may be the most terrifying Ghostface killer. He was in the friend group. And I know you're saying, yeah, well, they're always in the friend group. Billy was in the friend group. Stu was in the friend group. Jill was in the friend group. Charlie was in the friend group. I get it. But, like, he was in the friend group, right? Like, he was offering condolences to Sid in light of the events that were going on. He was cheering on Derek during his song and dance number. He was like, for the first half of the movie, and this is one of the problems that I have with Scream 2, is it kind of gives away that he is the Ghostface killer in the movie, because he just disappears halfway through the movie. And you're like, oh, well, it's Mickey. Like, it has to be Mickey. But up to that point, he's just there. He's involved. Like, and it's not just that he's a part of the story. Like, he infiltrated their lives, befriended them, blended in, and was accepted by them, despite the fact that he is an emotionless sociopath. And that terrifies me. Just the thought that, you know, I could be out at karaoke or something with my friends, and, you know, one of them that I'm talking to and laughing with and, like, confiding things into might be a homicidal maniac, right? How is that not a terrifying thought? And I feel like Mickey's character does that better than any other character in this franchise, right? And, like, his kills were calculated, precise, and brutal. He had killed before. He had been killing for a long time. And he hadn't been caught. He had gotten away with it so much that his goal in the movie was to get caught. Again, just like Roman did, he had Sydney dead to rights, right? She had nowhere to go. She had no one to help her. And then Nancy just comes in and kills him. Mrs. Loomis comes in and just shoots him in the head, right? He was dedicated and committed. She had no reason to remove him from the equation yet, right? He'd have done anything she wanted him to do in that moment, right? And, like, he wasn't a threat to her. There hadn't been any, like, given they hadn't shared any screen time up to that point, but there was no lead up. There was no reason for her to kill him. And I really feel Like, if she had not, if she had left him on the board, I think Scream 2 would have had a very different ending. And it would have been a much darker and a much more depressing ending, because I don't think Mickey would have had any problems or any issues dispatching Sidney and Gail and coloring the situation however Mrs. Loomis wanted him to. So he doesn't end up in the so close category because the reason he didn't get to finish the job wasn't his fault. You can argue that he got manipulated like Stu and Charlie and Amber, right? That he was gullible and, all this stuff. But that's not true. She didn't... I know I said earlier that she had the ability to manipulate him into controlling him, but this was a business transaction at the end of the day, right? Like... Yeah, they were business partners. They weren't like, Billy and Stu, who were like these crazy high school friends who just decided to start killing people. They weren't like Jill and Charlie, who were, isolated, disenfranchised, nerdy incel, and, a manipulative, psychopathic criminal mastermind with delusions of grandeur, right? Like, she wanted revenge. He liked killing people. She said, hey, you want to go help me kill a bunch of people? And he said, yeah, that sounds good. That was it. I mean, you could, I guess you could throw an argument out that she was afraid that he would kill her afterwards, which, fair. But, like, he wanted to get caught. He said it. That was his motive in the movie. He wanted to get caught. He wanted to go to court. He wanted it to be the trial of the century. So I don't think he would have killed her. So yeah, Mickey, Sidney got lucky. All right. And our last Ghostface killer, Mr. Billy Loomis himself, the OG. The one they brought back for Scream 5 and 6 to be some kind of weird mental psycho vision in Sam's head. Oh, Billy. Follow through and timing stopped him from pulling it all off. Right? Sadly, neither one of the OGs make it to the top tier. Billy goes in the so close category. And it really comes down to the fact that he just had to monologue. Right? He just had to monologue. If he and Stu had just finished Sid off when they had her locked down, what would they have had to have dealt with? Right? Gail with a gun with the safety on. A pitiful, drunk, already wounded Randy, and Sidney's bound father in the closet. Right? So, like, so close. If they had taken care of that and then wounded themselves, they'd have accomplished their goal. I mean, they probably wouldn't have gotten away with it, because there would have been an investigation and forensics and a bunch of other things that probably would have led them back to, it was Billy and Stu at the end. But in the moment, at the end of the movie, they would have accomplished their goal. They would have gotten away with it, but they just had to stop and, start stabbing themselves. Sid didn't even call the police until after she had gotten away. Right? So they would have had all of the time in the world to stage it however they pleased. But they made that one mistake. Billy made that one mistake. He didn't... The one mistake that seems to happen most often in this franchise is that when the killer has the heroine dead to rights, they just don't kill him. Right? Same thing. Roman had Gail and Dewey, just didn't kill him. Billy and Stu had Sidney, Didn't kill her. You could probably, I mean, you could argue that Mickey didn't kill her, but I don't think he got the chance to kill her because Mrs. Loomis came in pretty quickly and just shot him in the head. Right? So, yeah, there we have it. There's there's my tier ranking of the Ghostface killers based off of their actions in the movie. Now, real quick, if you want me to, I will go ahead and order them by my favorites. I'll just do a simple S, A, B, C, and D. C and D. Okay, so S rank Ghostface killers for me going to be Mickey, and then Jill, and Roman. Just fantastic. I'm going to drop Bailey and Richie and Amber down into the C ranking, or the D ranking, I mean. Mrs. Loomis, she's actually barely in the movie. I know she has a lot of scenes in the movie, but she's barely in the movie. I'm going to drop her into C. Billy and Stu are A's. Charlie, I'm going to drop down into C. And then, man, I really liked Quinn. I think she was a very misused Ghostface killer. I think she could have been a much better version of the character. Alright. There we go. I ranked them for you by their performance in the films and just by my personal favorites here at the end. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have any opinions or arguments, or if you just want to yell at me and tell me I'm dumb and stupid, please throw them in the comments down at the bottom. I don't have a whole lot of followers, so I should be able to check them and respond to anybody that does. Hopefully I will continue to make videos. I might do some more tier lists. This was actually kind of fun. Really got me thinking about the characters. Yeah, that's it. Y'all have a good night.